Welcome to the Inside Games Roundup, the only gaming variety show that is yet to ruin itself with monetization.
Oh, we're working on it though, but still, we're maintaining the boundaries. We save all our Patreon plugs till the end of the show like good civilized YouTubers. Honestly, that's a lesson RuneScape could learn these days, as even the game's own developers have admitted that microtransactions have run the experience of playing the game directly into the ground.
Oh, and speaking of developers ruining their own games, Nintendo has made it way harder to play normal 3-lap Mario Kart in Mario Kart.
Yeah, the mode of Mario Kart, it's a weird choice. Bold, I suppose. Got a few other stories percolating this week. The UK just approved a massive game investment package, and Epic Games won a lawsuit against a Fortnite cheater.
Yay! All right, let's kick off the news by throwing in the one Inside Game staffer that is yet to be found liable in court for literally anything, Brian Garr.
That's right. I'm skilling up agility while we're recording this, so let's do it. All right, so after years of mounting frustration from players, RuneScape 3 is finally getting a microtransaction makeover, and this came from a surprisingly candid update. This is from new Jagex CEO John Bellamy, who admitted that the game's aggressive monetization, to say the least, is, quote, harming RuneScape, and that the era of a tainted RuneScape 3 is coming to an end. Basically, they're saying they know they messed up and they're finally trying to fix it.
We love some humility from game developers. Kind of rare, but you know, it's usually the lack of money that drives them to that mic with hat in hand, so it is what it is. Accordingly, starting in July, Jagex is launching a series of anti-microtransaction experiments to test less invasive ways of monetizing the game. And that begins with disabling Treasure Hunter, the infamous daily key-based reward system that's long been accused of turning the game into a glorified casino. Also on the chopping block are XP boosting microtransaction items like Proteans and lamps, which will be shut off during the autumn double XP event.
Whatever, better late than never, I guess. Other changes in the works include offering previously RNG locked cosmetics as direct purchases and testing out cosmetic free worlds for players who just want to play without looking like a walking neon ad.
Yeah, and some background, this is coming because they admitted that the game's just not growing anymore. But meanwhile, old school RuneScape, which is the older fork of the game, is doing great. And it has zero MTX, well, except for bonds, but basically zero MTX, and people love it. According to Jagex's own data, 63% of X players said they would consider coming back if pay-to-win mechanics were reined in. Bellamy says the studio is aiming for a healthier, more balanced game, closer to the approach used in old school RuneScape.
Great. But before you bust out the party poppers, they're not removing all the microtransactions, because who would do that? It is still a major revenue stream, but at least this message is, somewhat clear. No more XP for cash, and no more rolling the dice for power. Now, what about all the old players that ground it all out during the old system? Are they gonna feel like they did it the proper way and all these new players just get everything for free?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And also, they have said kind of similar-ish stuff in the past. So it's very much, I think the player base is like, let's wait and see. But I do think it's interesting that they have sort of very much now are sort of saying, yeah, we know we've harmed the game and we're going to try to fix it.
I saw some speculation that this no microtransactions response was a response to another thing I don't even really want to talk about, another, I guess, PR mess up that RuneScape just recently had with a bunch of Pride Month stuff. And yeah, so they're saying they basically pulled the ripcord on this, and they're like, well, all right, we need positive news, so get rid of microtransactions. So I'm not sure. Again, I've just scratched the surface of that. But that's what I saw. Yeah,
they said we're not going to do Pride stuff this year because it's no longer as popular as it used to. Basically saying in the government zeitgeist right now, it's kind of frowned upon. And yeah, they took a ton of heat for that, and rightfully so.
Man, honesty gets you in all kinds of trouble, I guess. But if the honesty is we're going to ask less money from you, then that's a good thing. We could use some honesty with this next story, which is very confusing. Yeah, if you've been using the random option in Mario Kart World to sneak in a good old-fashioned 3-lap race, well, Nintendo figured that out and removed it for some reason because they're not down with that.
Yeah, the game's latest patch changes how online course selection works, and it makes it harder to consistently land on the traditional, your 3-lap tracks that the old school fans like myself prefer. Until now, basically players could vote for random during the online versus races and pretty reliably get a standard lap-based courses. That's because behind the scenes, random would often pool from the smaller pool of 3-lap tracks, which is just 30 out of a whopping 232 total courses. So it's a small pool of 3-lap tracks to begin with.
But according to data miner Oatmeal Dome, that's no longer the case. The updated random setting now includes the 3 available intermission courses, which are long open world style races with a single lap, making it less likely you'll land on the classic circuits.
Offline players can still choose exactly which types of races they want, but in online, you're stuck picking from the 3 preset intermission tracks or rolling the dice with random, which just got a lot less reliable. Can you still not break out of the 3 selection and pick a track from the map? Is that gone now?
I think it's like a group thing. Like if you're racing in a group that and kind of everybody, I don't know. It's a mess, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's confusing. I think that's the takeaway for me, at least. I don't know why they did it this way. What I have a dark theory just popped into my head. Is that with every online game, people tend to reduce the game to its most controllable states. Your final destination, no items kind of setup. Dust is like the map for Counter-Strike, even though there are other maps. Nobody really wants to play them because everyone likes honing their skills on one thing. So maybe this is an attempt to prevent players from going down this funnel and just racing 2 or 3 maps online and that's it. With all the open world courses and stuff, I'm sure Nintendo has an interest in making sure players experience all the content equally versus doing what players tend to do and focusing on 1 or 2 of them. I also think that the like cross-country courses are a little less chaotic. On these, with 24 racers now on a 3-lap track, it is non-stop violence and chaos. When you're going from course to course, though, there are longer stretches of open road where there aren't a million item boxes around. So I've kind of found in those longer races, you tend to not just get hammered with items. And that could be a player retention thing. If people are only doing these 3-lap races because that's what everyone else is voting on, and they are just getting pummeled by shells and shit nonstop, dropping from 1st to 24th in the last stretch of well, that happens all over the place, but still, it tends to happen, it feels like it happens more often on these tight 3-lap races, so I don't know, maybe they're just trying to dilute out the experience a bit, make it a little less intense and chaotic.
I think you also hit on the most important part, Lawrence, which is the longer courses. So usually with these online games, they want you to play longer. They want monthly active users up and they want you to be there longer. And if those courses, the ones that are not the 3-lap courses, if those are longer, if they require a longer amount of time to complete, then that's what they want. They want you to be there longer on their game.
That's an excellent point. Didn't think about that.
All right, let's move on and talk about the UK. They've announced a £30 million games growth package, a 3-year investment plan that's designed to boost their video game industry and support startups and help tackle long-standing skills gaps in the developer space.
The government initiative will pump £10 million per year. I don't know, there's an off-color joke to be made there. Like me in the bedroom. Anyway, for a total of about $41 million US into early stage studios through an expanded UK games fund. This will help young developers bring their ideas to market. This is what we like to see. A new UK Video Games Council is also being formed to bridge the gap between industry voices and policymakers, aiming to steer the sector toward long-term growth.
Yeah, the package isn't just about money either. The government plans to tackle the industry's skills shortage head on by launching a UK Games Skills Network. This group will develop a national strategy to grow talent pipelines and make the sector more accessible to new entrants.
Yeah, and the London Games Festival is going to get a financial boost too. UK Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy called the video game sector a true national success story, saying, "By backing our games developers with the funding they need, we're ensuring the next Tomb Raider or Little Big Planet will be made right here in Britain."
What weird choices to say.
No.
The biggest franchises I think that they could pin that aren't it's not Sea of Thieves. I don't know. This is cool to see though, because the UK used to be a really hotbed for game development, mostly on home PC, your Amigas and your ZX Spectrums and stuff like that. That's a whole atmosphere. I guess the Netflix special Bandersnatch was kind of based around the UK phenom game development in the 80s. Yeah, it just kind of fizzled. Most of those studios really struggled to survive in the 2000s. So hopefully this will bring it all back.
Rare back in the day was awesome. Yeah, and RuneScape is a British. Jagex is from the UK. But yeah, it's not what it used to be, for sure.
I haven't played it yet, but I heard a lot of good buzz around Thank Goodness You're Here, one of the more British games in recent memory. So hopefully there's some sparks of life. Because yeah, a lot of those studios got acquired and then closed. Looking at you, Activision, goddamn you.
It feels like they're heavy in the creator space too. I see a lot of like for video game influencers and stuff. It seems like a lot of them are from the UK. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
They just sound smarter over there.
That's so true. All right, Epic Games just won a $175,000 lawsuit against a cheating-ass Fortnite player who used cheating software and hardware during a tournament and then tried to dodge consequences by hopping between multiple accounts.
The player who hasn't been publicly named ignored the lawsuit entirely. Yeah, that's interesting strategy. That allowed a judge to rule in Epic's favor, slapping the cheater with a lifetime ban and ordering them to cough up the hefty sum of $175,000.
That rocks. I love these stories so much. All right. Epic says it plans to donate whatever money it actually collects from the judgment to charity. I guess we don't know which one. The company said that cheating has no place in Fortnite. All right. And promised to continue legal action to keep the playing field fair.
Yeah, and this isn't a one-off thing. They've gone after cheaters a bunch. And they recently filed another lawsuit targeting cheat software sellers Cincy Cheats and Vanta Cheats. So, yeah. I wonder if they'll donate that too. They got all kinds of money. $175,000 is like just petty cash for Epic.
I love that. That's a real gamer move, though. Just not even acknowledging the lawsuit at all.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they have revenue streams the law can't find.
He just didn't want to tell his mom he got sued. I'm just going to ignore this. Hope it goes away.
Bury it under my underwear.
All right, let's do a 5-second review. This is an obscure new game. It's Geom Mythica. It's I think it's a single creator game from a guy, Chris Gwynn, but it's basically, he tried to make it's a throwback to the old 8-bit RPGs, like original Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest. It's right up my alley. It's awesome. It's cheap right now on Steam. Totally worth your time if you miss sort of that NES Sega era of RPGs with kind of like modern quality of life update. Highly recommended.
On sale, $13. Not bad.
Yeah, he's one of those creators who's been like working on it for years, and I've like followed his and it's cool to see it finally come, and I'll give you a shout out.
All right, let's move on to the games coming out this week. First up, Mecha Break. Squad Up and Mecha Break, a multiplayer third-person shooter offering players 3 game modes filled with high-octane ground and aerial combat. Pilot your striker into the breach and take on enemies across worldwide hotspots. Ready for that ultimate showdown? I know you are. Comes to PC and Xbox Series X July 1st.
Nice. I guess maybe minor note of disclosure, I've been sponsored by Mecha Break in the past.
So have I. Huh.
Next up, The Echo Paradox, which is a rad name. It's a first-person psychological horror game. Humanity stands on the brink of an unsettling revelation. Alternate dimensions are real, but eerily without signs of life. Man, I got Death Stranding on the brain. It's already ringing. Echo Paradox comes to PC on July 1st. And then this is something I wanted to shout out. It seems like every weekend there's a different speedrunning marathon going on. This weekend's is the License-a-thon marathon. I love speedrunning marathons. I think they're great background noise. This one specifically is running this weekend. This is a collection of speedruns of licensed games, and it's benefiting the Transgender Law Center, which is a US-based nonprofit dedicated to the liberation and well-being of LGBTQIA+ people across the United States. So give it a watch. It's on Twitch account License-a-thon. There'll be a link in the description too.
We'd also like to take a moment to thank you for watching our show right now, Inside Games. We love video games here. We're glad to get to share that with you. And also, speaking of loving video games, if you don't already know, you probably already do. The Steam Summer Sale has started, and you need to go and buy a video game on Steam right now because there are insane discounts. Usually last for like a week, 10 days-ish. You probably, like I said, you probably already know about the Steam Summer Sale, but if you don't, this is now the perfect time to pick up whatever game you wanted. You probably looked at it for a few months and been like, oh, I hope it gets a discount. It probably has a discount.
Oh, let me see if Mind's Eye is on discount.
Oh, there's no way. No way. They're laying people off. They're laying people off right now.
We'd like to take another moment, an extra special moment here to thank patrons that support our show directly. These patrons have somehow never spent a single dime on RuneScape microtransactions. That's Caleb Clark, Name Hogger, Matt Bogenberger, and Brandon Young.
Meanwhile, these patrons can't log into RuneScape without dropping at least $50, just like Brian Garr. So that's tough. Wesley Mullins, AKM Scout, Baron 5X, and Pablo Garcia.
All right, Mind's Eye is not on sale.
No, no way.
And one final note, speaking of our Patreon, you should check it out. We post every episode we do there, so if you're ever curious to find one place where you can just find all the content we make on Inside Games, it's all there, all the posts are public. And every single episode gets a Law Dog Select image meme or weird image from the internet. I have a treasure trove. And every day there's one little treasure there. So go and collect your treat. Go collect a funny internet image and see all of our content. But once again, thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time on Inside Games.